Welcome, John.
Petra, and thank you very much for the welcome. The most enjoyable job of my life was working on the Indochina program with Malcolm Fraser. He had the moral leadership in this country to call on Australians to respond to the better angels of their nature, and we did. And I'm confident that despite the horrible politics and policies at the moment, we can return again to generosity and humanity in the treatment of asylum seekers and refugees. So when we get depressed and disappointed, hang on to the fact that we've done it well in the past. We're going backwards at the moment, but I'm confident that we can go forward in the future. Our leaders have disappointed us. The Labor Party does not know where to turn on this question. It is confused, and I'm yet to hear Julia Gillard really make an appeal to the Australian people for generosity and humanity in the treatment of refugees. I'm hear from Tony Abbott the promotion of fear in this community, bigotry. He's really doing a great disservice to this country. When we had Malcolm Fraser as Prime Minister and Gough Whitlam as Leader of the Opposition, this country made great strides in human treatment of people. And we now have in this country 240,000 Indo-Chinese that were the beneficiaries of that generosity, and we in turn, as Australians, have been beneficiaries of their generosity. It was Euripides who said in the 5th century BC that the most sorrowful thing for any person is to be driven out of their own country. And it's still true today. We are not hearing about the claims for our response for the 15 million refugees in the world that deserve and need help and attention. There are another 30 million, according to the UNHCR, who are also in great need. But we've done it well in the past, and I'm sure with your help, don't get disappointed. We can do better than this, and I'm sure we will. A particular problem, I think, is that we have this hysteria in the country about boat people. It is quite absurd and out of all proportion. In the last 10 years, 76% of asylum seekers who came to this country came by air. It varies from year to year, but 76% came by air. Asylum seekers that come by air are not locked up. If you come by boat, you are locked up. And the people in detention centres today, over 6,000 of them are overwhelmingly boat people who have a better record in refugee determination than others in our community. But we have this phobia, this hysteria about boat people. And until we address that issue wholeheartedly and frontally, we're going to have a problem in this country. I see no logic in this separation of boat people and asylum seekers. It's quite easy, in fact, to get a visa, to get a passport, come into Mascot, tell a fib that you're coming as a student or a business person or as a student, get entry into Australia, and then at leisure walk down to the rocks, claim asylum. You live then in the community. You've got a tough life, of course. You don't get much support, but you are not in detention. In fact, I think there is a business for Qantas. If it really wanted to promote asylum seekers by air, it's relatively easy. And if they come in by air, no one seems to worry. The media doesn't worry. No one even mentions them. But 76% of them in the last 12 months, the last decade, have come by air. I'm not saying that many of those have not got good claims for detention, for asylum, but we've got this debate entirely screwed up. And the day when we treat boat people the same way as people who arrive by air, we'll start to get a sensible debate on this question.
Maybe we get some flying boats.
In the announcements which the government made on Thursday night, there is a glint of light which I think we should pursue, and that is that the government is considering issuing bridging visas for persons in mandatory detention. If people in detention were treated in the same way as people who come by air, there would be scarcely anyone in this country in detention. It's that phobia we have with boat people. But the government has said that it is considering, if the detention centres get too full, that they will issue bridging visas to relieve the pressure on those detention centres. And I believe that in this movement we should look very clearly at how that opportunity can be seized. The door is open, ajar very slightly, but if we could push it open and get bridging visas for almost everyone in detention centres in this country, we would probably certainly reduce our costs, and we would free people into the community so that their claims for refugee status can be properly assessed without being locked up and subject to a whole range of mental issues that they face in detention. So that door is slightly open, and I suggest this movement should consider how that door can be widened, because if that door can be widened fully, it is the end of mandatory detention. It is. I'm not sure the government really has that intention, but it has given us an opening in that area. There's a lot to be done. Please don't get disappointed in the way this government and the opposition are behaving. It is appalling that we've done better in the past. We have taken 700,000 refugees in this country since the last war. Every group has had a problem. We have this natural suspicion, unfortunately all humans, of outsiders, foreigners, that people are different. But from experience we've learnt that once we know their stories, once they settle into this country, our hearts melt and they become great citizens of this country. I believe that those 700,000 refugees that have come to this country have contributed to us more than we've contributed to them. We need to take that opportunity on mandatory detention through bridging visas. We also need to increase the quota, which presently for refugees stands at only 7,000 per annum. It's not 14,000 as suggested, because that's made up of what's called a special humanitarian program, which is very largely a de facto family reunion program. The number should be increased substantially for, in this case, for offshore settlement. People in, particularly in Pakistan, many Hazaras suffering greatly in Pakistan at the moment. We should have an orderly departure program with Afghanistan, the same way we did with Vietnam in the 1980s, and we should process in-country for Tamils in Sri Lanka and for other minorities in Afghanistan. We showed under the Fraser government, and we took thousands out of Chile, and we took hundreds out of El Salvador. We didn't call them refugees. The government was glad to get rid of the dissidents, and I believe that we could take those models again to provide opportunities for people in those countries suffering persecution and discrimination, that there are alternate pathways and they don't have to come by boat. There are many things that this government could do and a reform of policy will make possible. If I could just make one final advertisement. I'm board director of the Centre for Policy Development, and with the two other authors we wrote this document, a new framework, breaking the stalemate on refugees and asylum seekers. It's on cpd.org.au, cpd.org.au. I hope you'll have a look at it. It covers, I think, a lot of the matters of concern to you. Please keep up the pressure. We are going backwards at the moment, but the history has shown that we can do these things really very well.